Now you're coaching. So we've been talking about
Yes.
great fullbacks. As a coach, you're also a selector. We have Reece Walsh going up against James Tedesco tonight. Mal, does the winner of this game claim the number 1 jersey?
This is Ryan's question, isn't it?
Yes,
Thanks, Ryan, for
that's
this one.
right, yes.
Really appreciate it, mate. There's no doubt that Reece is one of the incumbents. There's no doubt about that, So you got Dylan Edwards as well, and I think Kalyn Ponga's probably playing the best footy of his career back at number 1 at the moment as well. So it was a great array of fullbacks playing. Scotty Drinkwater from the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Latrell's back this week, and unfortunately Tommy Turbo's injured at the moment. But there's so many great fullbacks at the moment. But Teddy is the national captain and national fullback. So at this stage, unless Teddy tells me that he wants to, put the cue in the rack from a representative point of view, he's my captain. He's the Australian captain. He's led the Australian team with great distinction just off the back of the World Cup. There's no doubt Reece will put some pressure on him in ensuing years. There's no doubt about that. But from a loyalty point of view, I think we've had a lot of success last year. So I just think those players that gave us that success as a nation deserves first crack at the this year as well. That's what I believe in.
So we spoke to Michael Maguire on Monday again. I think he was 99% sure. Then he was 99.9% sure. So let's go. It's going to happen at the end of the year.
No, it's happening.
It's happening, yeah. So what size of squad will that Kangaroo squad be? Because I'm just thinking Reece Walsh, you would think it could go very close to making an extended squad.
Well, we only go on 20, I think.
20?
We will. We only go 20, 20, maybe 21. In that 20, obviously you need utility players. You need a couple of forwards. Obviously, because that's where the wear and tear is. I only took one fullback on the World Cup. That was James Tedesco because I had Jack White and I had Latrell Mitchell. Yeah. I had all Cameron Munster.
Yes.
Young Burton, Matty Burton, who could play fullback. So versatility is really important. So Teddy's the one. So what do you do from a versatility point of view? Can Reece play a number of positions? He probably can. He probably play in the halves. But where does that leave someone like Benny Hunt or as an example? So you need to pick some versatility. And you have some shadow players. If Teddy was unavailable, obviously, and he got hurt as an example, well then Reece would come into the fold. There's no doubt about that. But he's got some serious competition out there.
Yeah,
he's got a Dylan Edwards who's been doing it for a number of years. He's got a Kalyn Ponga who's been doing it for a number of years. So and Kalyn is the Queensland fullback, but he made a choice that allowed Reece to jump into that spot. So
yeah.
And whether that was a silly decision or not, I'm not quite sure. But you got to find a spot for both, don't you? In the Queensland side, as an example. So, but we've only got 20, so we're just got to make some decisions based on what we think is the best balance for the footy team.
And then the other thing is Latrell Mitchell could come back and have 8 of the most magnificent weeks with South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm a fan of Will Kennedy, from the Sharks. So I'm a fan of his. I think his last couple of years has been fantastic. And Darley Evans said it really well through the week, where longevity is a really good marker for the quality of the player.
Yeah.
And Reece has been around for a couple of years, obviously, but he's certainly come to the fore this year. But that's 1 year. What happens next year when they start working him out? So Teddy's been around for a decade. So and he's been doing it consistently. And you look at the way he played last week, obviously off of just a bit of a break, and you got to take into consideration, where they are in their careers, how much football they've been playing, what the workloads have been like. He's obviously didn't have a break through the off season last year, obviously too much, because he was in the World Cup. He played all the games, So yeah, I mean, you got to take all those sort of considerations in.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great talking point around, nearly every position, but certainly.
Well, it's nearly every.
fullback.
Well, yeah, Australia's so strong, and your Kiwis
Yeah.
are so strong, and all the Pacific nations are getting stronger, by the week, really. So yeah, it's a tough conversation to have from a selector's point of view, but loyalty comes back into play, I reckon, because of what the team did last year.
Yeah, no doubt. The throwdown with Mal Meninga, always interesting on a Thursday. We've got to get ourselves to the news. After that, if you want to give Mal a call, get it on the open line, 1300 01 1170. Lots of text messages coming in as well. We'll get to them. We'll get to the news and then we're back with. Thank you, Amy. I tell you what, you've got to listen to the show that goes on during the course of the ad breaks and the news, because Mal Meninga just pulls back the curtain a little bit on what's. So here we go. This is the Tassie Toad asked this question. If we want to ask a question by Mal, 0457 736 736. Oh, by the way, apparently we just got a text message in from a Clint from Parramatta who wondered why he wasn't included in the fullbacks.
Sorry, Gutho. Sorry, mate. Sorry. He's definitely in the loop as well. He's a terrific player, and he's a good man to be around if you don't want to get too much sleep.
Oh, is that right? Gutho?
Oh no, as a coach, I know he's a good man. Obviously he's heavily wired towards having fun.
Yeah, right.
Put it that way. But he can play footy.
What a competitor he is. Like he's just like even that game against the Cowboys. You go, oh well, they're done, they're out, they can't help himself. Gutherson and Moses.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, full of admiration for both of those players. I mean, the Cowboys are really dominant last week, and I think their performance sort of underpins, where they're going to be at the back end of the year. I think they're one of the danger teams, there's no doubt. But the Eels kept on hanging in there. You know? So they had obviously Regan Campbell-Gillard out and Mago Sivo out, and Dylan Brown yet to come back. So they had a few out, the Eels, but they just don't give up. And led by Clint Gutherson and Mitchell Moses, I thought once again they're sort of the rock that they build the Eels foundation on. And if they keep playing like that and get those other players back, well, obviously they're going to be a bit of a threat at the back end of the year too.
G'day, Jimmy. Can you ask Big Mal, does he remember the Channel 9 camera zooming in on his pre-game speech in the 93 State of Origin? I remember there was an uproar about a few expletives. As an 11-year-old, I loved it, says the Tassie Toad.
There you go. As a 33-year-old, I loved it as well, So, yeah, there was a few expletives, but I wasn't told. See, I didn't get into trouble because no one told me that was happening. So It was one of those speeches you have just before you go into battle, So it was sort of pitched at that. Didn't have any idea. But the thing about it all, Jimmy, you got all these, these goody shoers, saying things like, oh, that's not the way you rev teams up, and that's not the mentality you should have going into those sort of contests and all that sort of crap that they don't. They just don't understand the world we work in, do they? I tell them just a few more expletives when I read all that too, So,
yeah.
But more importantly, the Channel 9 apologised because no one was aware of it. They just thought they'd bring it into the inner sanctum,
Yeah.
And the inner sanctum was broken because of that. So. Yeah, I had a few comments around, sports psychologists saying that's not the way you talk, but you learn your lessons and you move on.